Philosophy. I got Clay here, Don, your regular host for this channel, and guess what just ended? E3.
E3.
2018. We're going to talk about a couple of highlights, some of the things that we saw in the press conference, some of the things we got excited for, and some of the things we missed out on. So, we're gonna it's gonna be kind of hard to go over everything that happened in E3 in these last 3 days in the next 30 minutes. So we're gonna break this down pretty much by press conference and console. So we're gonna start this off with Xbox and Bethesda. Clay, what were your thoughts?
They have the throwback. They're bringing back Battletoads on Xbox One. It was really
that was an interesting presentation. I didn't know where they were going with that at first. I thought it was going to be Deadpool for a minute.
Yeah.
Battletoads was the last thing that was on my mind.
Yeah, well, they had Battletoads and Killer Instinct, one or two of them. I'm not a huge Battletoads fan, but I think it's great that they're kind of pulling something back out of history and into modern times. Although all we really got was a logo, unless I missed something along the way. I didn't really see anything.
No, we didn't see any game footage, just a logo. And I don't know if they're just playing on the whole nostalgia factor that's been affecting our culture and our nation for the last couple of years, but 90s is coming back.
So we have Battletoads. Then what many people were expecting, Gears of War 5. It seems like they're trying to do something a little different. There were some callbacks to the original trilogy, but they're still building on what they did with the last game. It seems like it's a good direction. I don't have any problems with it. Again, I haven't really played anything. I was a diehard Gears fan for the first 3 games, and I haven't really played much at all of the last one. But this one. The trailer was enough to entice me. I might go back and get back into things.
No, it looked like they focused a little bit more. You saw a little bit more story focused on this part, and it looked good, and the characters are feeling like they're being fleshed out a little bit more. So I'm excited to see what happens with that.
The big surprise was, as things typically go, you wait for the big announcement at the end of the presentation, and right off the bat we got Halo 6, Halo Infinite.
I did not see that coming.
No, especially to start the conference off that way. Now, I would put my money on Halo Infinite being a next-gen game. We got really a teaser trailer that basically just showed off the new engine. Really no idea of what the game's going to be about, although we know it's a continuation of Halo 5, and now, spoiler alert, if you didn't play Halo 5, Cortana is the big baddie now. So we'll have to wait and see, but it gives the impression that maybe it takes place a significant amount of time after Halo 5. There's a lot of ruins, way more callbacks to the original game. I don't think we're going to be seeing this one until probably 2020 or somewhere around there. I just have a feeling it's going to be a launch title for the next Xbox. And I think Ryan McCaffrey on IGN had pointed out that the last time we had a Halo launch, a Halo game as a launch title for a new system was the OG, the original Xbox. Every other system we've had to wait. So, what do you think?
It's actually interesting because we're hearing a lot of, and there was an article I wanted to discuss on our next podcast, like the next future of the consoles and where is it really going to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see how this plays into a lot of people's theories, or especially Ubisoft's president's theory, we're coming to the end. So stay tuned. Let's see. Maybe this will be able to revitalize consoles a little bit more. But
and they, while we're on the subject of Microsoft, and since you mentioned that, they did mention in their press conference that they were concentrating more on trying to make it so that you could get a console experience, the same console experience anywhere when you're dealing with streaming systems. So I guess most of the computing would be done elsewhere, and you basically just have a streaming box. Whether that's something that can be done to an existing Xbox One or even, I mean, I would imagine they can do that if they're talking about doing that on a cell phone. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll be getting new consoles, but in what form? Is it just going to be a streaming box?
Was it Gear War that was talking about doing a mobile game too?
Yeah, they've mentioned that before.
We saw a little glimpse of like Funko like figures popping out, and
I don't know if that was a.
I didn't know if that was a joke or if that was they. Bethesda did throw a lot of jokes out there,
and some of them we'll talk about that in a minute. But some of them became more than just a joke; they became reality. So next on the list, I had Crackdown 3. If we get to see it at all, we've been waiting for this for 3 years at least, and now we're talking about pushing it out to 2019. Obviously, if you play the other Crackdown games, you know that they're less about the graphic experience and more about gameplay and just blowing stuff up and having fun. I loved the first Crackdown. I got the second Crackdown and ran into a game-breaking bug midways through play and could not progress any further, and that really soured me on playing Crackdown. So I don't know. We'll have to wait. At least there's Terry Crews in the trailer to keep us interested to an extent. Have you played any others?
I had never played none of the others, but just seeing Terry Crews, and Terry Crews is a phenomenal actor. He's just about his money. He will do anything for a buck, and he's not ashamed to admit it.
Yeah. Well, next up, what Microsoft finished off with was a new IP, Cyberpunk 2077. It was really just a rundown of what the game will eventually look like. I'd expect to see this as maybe a big point of interest next year at next year's E3. I don't remember if they had a date on it, but I'm sure it's at least mid-2019, if not further out. To me, it really just looked like somebody got into a conference room and said, GTA's doing really well, and I'm a big Blade Runner fan, so let's mash the two of those together. But it could be, we really don't know anything. It could be a full-on RPG. It could be something more like GTA-esque. But what would you think?
I mean, honestly, if it did have a GTS feel, and looking at the numbers that GTA has done and so forth, you can't blame anyone for just going ahead and trying to get that money. It's open money out there. Yeah. So if you can mimic it and make it original and make it kind of futuristic, I think you have a winner. It's one of two things. It's either going to go very, very well, or it's going to go very, very south. I don't think there's going to be much of it in between. If GTA is really what they're going for, and again, it is very early to see what it's going to be, but the feel of what they would show, it looked like it was going to be like a GTA.
Yeah, it definitely caught my eye with the colors, the futuristic sense to it. I don't think you don't see many games on that scale fail per se, but you could have another like Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs was okay. I played some of it. Watch Dogs 2, but
I think that was borderline fail.
Yeah, I mean,
it might have made its money back.
Yeah,
but I don't think it grossed enough as much as like all the advertising and everything, marketing they put into it. Because we were seeing commercials left and right on that.
Yeah,
and as soon as the game came out, it fizzled.
Yeah, they spared no expense, especially on the first game. So that wraps up the Xbox side of things. Now, to touch on some of the other studios, I know Ubisoft had their own thing going. The one thing that really stuck out to me above all the others was Skull and Bones. Knowing what sort of pirate-esque battles they were able to pull off in the earlier Assassin's Creed, that was 3? Black Flag, yeah. Knowing what they were able to do with that and how much fun that was, I'm really looking forward to this game. I know they were talking a while ago about beta. I can't remember if that's happened yet. But just the way they showed it, they expanded more on it. It got me excited to see it wasn't just you sitting on a boat the entire time. There is some interaction, just the overall way you can interact with other ships and fight
Yeah.
got me hooked. Was there anything else at the did that interest you, or anything else at the Ubisoft?
So the thing that really interested me on the Ubisoft was the whole Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
I think graphically that did well, and really that the first Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then the last movie, I think we're really changing how this franchise is going to be told, and you're really rescaping how of it. And there is actually tombs in this game, something that we didn't see much of last time.
Yeah.
So that does excite me that we're going to get a real good Tomb Raider game that has a good story.
Yeah, it looks great. So moving on to a different developer, I'm a big Bethesda fan of, as I've said before. We went in knowing the worst kept secret in games right now that Rage 2 was happening. The first one was not a fan favorite. If you really enjoyed that game, you'd probably be in the minority. It kind of came on the heels of Doom 3. I think it was a modified version of that engine. I never really got into it, but this game looks great. It looks like a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of Mad Max or anything like that. The biggest thing for me is trying to figure out if they're able to balance that first-person shooter that id is known for, but also get vehicle combat down, and that's pretty difficult to get it right. I could have done without the I love Andrew WK, don't get me wrong, but I could have done without the 5 minutes of him playing the song before we even got to the game. And you kind of tell everybody in the audience is like, okay, even those of us who like him.
Let me see. Look, we're here for video games.
Yeah. They didn't even show a highlight reel in the background. It was just a repeat of the live action trailer that they gave us right after the Walmart Canada leak happened. So everybody was waiting what felt like 5 minutes. It might have only been 2 or 3, but waiting for them to show off what the game looked like. And then we got it, and it looks great. It looks crazy. I think I could see people who are fans of the gameplay of something like Borderlands too, enjoying this. So are you looking forward to Rage 2?
I'm not really an Xbox guy,
Yeah.
so it looked beautiful, but it doesn't entice me to buy an Xbox.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave that to the Xbox players out there. I'm gonna stay Sony for life. So
Have they announced exclusivity on that? I'm not sure if it'll be.
I assumed it was exclusivity since it came out during the Bethesda part, but there were a couple of games in there that was dual. So I didn't check to see if that one was dual.
I don't know. It could be. Next would be my personal favorite, which was Doom Eternal. If you saw the podcast that we did last week, that was on my top list of things that had not been officially announced, but I was looking forward to the most. And so now we're getting Doom Eternal, which is, for all intents and purposes, Doom 2 Hell on Earth, a remake of the second franchise, the second game in the franchise. We got to see what a street in presumably the United States looks like when hell has taken over. I think it's great. They're saying twice as many demons, more chaotic, crazy gameplay, and even more mods and weapons than the original game. So it's actually this is perfect time for me. I've had the original Doom. I loved it, but I should say I've had the 2016 version of Doom, and I loved it, but I haven't had a chance to beat it. And just by coincidence, I got through it.
Now you got a reason to beat it.
Well, I actually got through it 2 weeks ago, so I finally beat the game, and so it's great now because I just finished the first one. Now I get to segue into another one. Presumably that'll happen by the end of the year. We have to wait till QuakeCon really to get any more info on that. Then they went into the big game of the evening with Fallout 76. If there's any franchise outside of, say, like Doom or Halo or some of the other larger Nintendo and Xbox franchises that I'm a fan of, it's Fallout. Fallout's probably the biggest third-party franchise that I'm a fan of. And So to see what they're doing with Fallout 76, they're talking about a map 4 times the size of the previous Fallout game, um, and a lot of new enemies. It doesn't seem like you're going to have, if you're familiar with the Fallout universe, you're probably not going to see super mutants, or at least in the way they looked, since the lore, this game only this game takes place about 25 years after the bombs dropped. So you're looking at over 100 years prior to any of the, well, about 100 years prior to the other games. So a lot of the mutants that are created in the later series games probably won't exist unless they retcon a few things. But the big surprise for this one, and it was rumored for a while, was that it's going to be the first Fallout game that's multiplayer, online multiplayer, which I could go without. Although they said that you could turn it off, but I don't. I love Fallout because I can, if I get home late at night from work and I just want to play a little bit, I can play a little bit, or I can jump in and play all day. I've never been big on online RPGs. I don't want to have to wait and organize and get my friends together to play a game that I want to play right then and there, and then figure out what we're going to do, what quests we're going to go on. I was never a WoW guy or, Elder Scrolls Online. It doesn't interest me. When it comes to RPGs, I'm pretty much a loner.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. There are some games that, like, you want to play with a big, massive party.
Yeah.
But then that whole organizing, and then when you do organize, you can't just do 15 minutes or 30 minutes and then call it a day. Like, there's someone in the party that wants to go hours.
Right.
And once you organize something like that, you gotta kind of stay committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I definitely understand that one, but we'll see. It looked like that was the biggest. What do you think? Was that the biggest highlight out of the Bethesda Xbox?
For me, in the tease of Doom Eternal, but yeah, I mainly watched Bethesda so that I could see more info on Fallout 76. And they've said too that I guess you don't have to play through the game via multiplayer. You can turn it off, I guess. But they did make kind of a side note mention that it's going to be far more difficult to play solo. And part of that, if you are a diehard Fallout fan, you know that in the lore of it all, right after, in the years right after the bombs dropped, the radiation was much higher. All the creatures were crazier and bigger and more exaggerated. That's kind of why you have the colors and everything that you see in Fallout 4, where life is kind of starting to return back to normal, but not quite. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, they wrapped up Bethesda's conference with a little teaser that just said Elder Scrolls 6. So, again, I think that one, just like Halo, is probably going to be next gen, way out there. That was just a 30-second teaser. They don't even have a title for it yet, just 6. And I think that was just a teaser of the engine and everything. So
yeah, what do you think the time frame for these next gen is? I mean, Nintendo did their next gen already with the Switch, but you think in another year? You think another 2 years? Because even when they came out with the current gen, they were a little advanced for the time.
Yeah,
it's been able to adapt and overcome like the needs of the consumer. Because when it first came out, it was all about motion control.
Yeah.
And then we were able to, that kind of died down, and we were able to get to this regular graphics play, and then we were able to get into VR.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's been able to, it was a little ahead of its time to be able to adapt. But now with talks of next gen, have we really maxed out the potential of these two powerful consoles? I mean, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are powerful consoles. I think we still got a little bit more juice to squeeze out of these oranges.
I think you can make that argument for the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox One X. But I know from my standpoint, even playing, again, something like Doom and waiting for the levels to load on my Xbox One, and just taking forever, and even the menus would take 30 seconds to a minute to load a menu. I don't know. I think if we don't see them teased next year at E3, then definitely the following year. But maybe it's just the end of the decade or what. But I'm banking on new consoles for 2020.
We gotta look at timing because gotta make sure it's around that holiday season.
Sure.
Which I think we'll talk about one press conference did very, very well to target around this holiday season. But I think that segues into one franchise that decided to do 3 different trailers at 3 different conferences. They started the first one, exciting, revealed their release date, January 29th. You know, if you've been watching, you know what I'm talking about. Kingdom Hearts 3. This is 14 years in the making, and you're going to make me wait another year. Now I got to wait till January 2029. But they launched the first trailer. Looked great, looked gorgeous. We found out some new things. Looks like, you know, any little girl that wants to play video games can get into this one because now you get to play with Frozen. So that's in the mix.
Disney princesses everywhere.
And then they released another trailer. Then they did Ubisoft, and they released another one for the Square Enix. And we got a little bit more. And I think we were able to see Ratatouille and some other franchises. And then we got a third one in PlayStation. Now we get to see Pirates of the Caribbean. Don't release 3 different trailers in 3 days and then don't give me the game this year. That's what I'm going to say to you. 3 different trailers. And I got to still wait till next year, which I'm going to have to because I want the game so bad. But 14 years in the making. I think that was definitely the highlight. Everyone was looking for something new. We got a little bit idea of new summons like Simba from the Lion King. We got to see some new worlds. We're seeing a lot of different configurations with the weapons and so forth, which makes it a little bit exciting. So it's like a little something new in each world you'll be able to do. So more to come. I think we're gonna. It's still not done. You can even see in the trailer there was still some things like sound effects that still weren't tweaked out yet. So I think later on this year we're probably gonna get another trailer. I think probably around October, November we'll probably get a more legit trailer.
That would make sense.
That will probably play out all the way until the launch date of January 29. But speaking of PlayStation, a couple other games that came out that we were a little bit excited for. We saw that Starlink, we're going to be able to do the Battle of Atlas. Star Fox is going to be appearing in that. And I'm not a Starlink person, per se, but the reviews and everyone a little excited about it, seeing Star Fox in another game, I think is what people wanted. It doesn't have to be a sole Star Fox game to get that intellectual property into another game.
It also makes you hope that maybe Nintendo will take some cues and not repeat Star Fox Zero. Give us something we can see how the ships should be able to act and how the gameplay probably should be. So we'll have to wait and see.
And there was one rumor that they might be making a Star Fox racing game, which honestly, after seeing the Starlink, it's not too far out there, and we might be able to get a little enjoyment out of that.
I'd rather see Diddy Kong Racing too.
Also, we got to see our first look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which it looks gorgeous, by the way. Glad we're getting a chance to see Greece. I think we've almost covered majority of the world. Yeah. Only place we haven't gone is Japan yet, which $10 says it's going to be the next one, and the next one after that. Yeah. But looks like they're bringing back boat battles again, so that looks exciting. I was not very good at that when it came to Black Flag. I sucked at that part of the mission.
It took some practice.
Yeah. But we're going to be able to see that and a little bit of the Greek lore, mythology played into the story, which is actually interesting to see how the Templars versus the Assassins was in ancient Greece with all the pantheon of gods and so forth there. So I think that's going to be an interesting take on the story to change it up a little bit. And then we had the Norman Reedus from Walking Dead game. I thought that was the name of the game. That whole time we were watching the trailer, I thought it was just going to be Daryl. I thought the Daryl was going to come on, but it's actually called Death Stranding. It looked a little out there. full claimer. I think PlayStation went a little artsy fartsy in this press conference.
Well, I'm also not I'm not a Kojima fan.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been a big fan of the games. Death Stranding, we were joking before that Death Stranding, this trailer was basically maybe at least 5 minutes long of just Norman Reedus walking, and that was it. And then we got some weird ghost figures and all that. I'm not excited.
Did I see a weapon? I didn't even see. I thought I saw a glimpse of a weapon of some sort.
It was this weird flashlight flower looking thing that was.
But the way the trailer went, it looked like there was going to be hours of walking.
Yeah.
Your gameplay is going to be mostly
carrying
walking.
things. Yeah, in one scene, he even looked like he was carrying a mummified body.
Yeah,
And then you've got.
He did say he was a delivery boy.
Right.
But all right, Norman, make your money. I'm proud of you making $1, but the game did not excite me.
Yeah.
Then you got the Shadow of the Tsume, which was a Japanese game.
Mm-hmm.
Would look very interesting. And then you had what should have been the highlight of PlayStation, especially with it coming out this year, and that was Spider-Man.
Yes.
Honestly, I want to see more gameplay. I think with us being this close, I would like to see more gameplay. We got a little bit, but you got more cutscenes.
Yeah, in the trailer especially, but they did follow up with about 8 or 9 minutes of gameplay afterwards, and
that should have been the presentation.
Yeah, I would have preferred to see that instead of sticking around like Nintendo does a lot with the Treehouse.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see it all in the presentation. I don't want to have to wait.
And the presentation was short. I think it was a total of like 38 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, press conferences, I think Bethesda, I think they used their full hour, didn't they?
Oh yeah. I think
they went to their full hour. Even
Microsoft did the same thing.
Ubisoft went 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
How does those companies and even the competitor console use up their time more wisely than you did?
Yeah.
Like that's my 2 cents on PlayStation. The press conference, but more gameplay would have been enjoyable. I don't really need to see a trailer of cutscenes because a lot of people have already pre-ordered.
Sure.
It's not you're not really selling it. You're just showing us what those who haven't bought are missing out.
And I think that franchise is going to draw people in no matter what. Myself, I don't own a PlayStation 4, but I can tell you right now, I want to play God of War and I want to play Spider-Man. Now, is that enough to get me to spend $400 or more? Not right now. Maybe I'll wait. I'm just not a very big PlayStation person. I love my PS2. My PlayStation 3 was a God of War and Blu-ray player. That was it. So I'll dive into it eventually. But if there's any franchise that's going to pull me that way, it's this Spider-Man game. As an Xbox guy, a Nintendo guy, I'm upset that I can't get that game, and I want to play it.
Yeah. And then following up then, to end E3, we go to the fan favorite, I think, Nintendo, which the other two graphically look great, and we've talked about this in the past podcast. Nintendo focuses more on gameplay. Now, during their press conference, it was really centered on one game in particular, and if you played this game, you understand why. Smash Brothers Ultimate. Now, instead of doing, a lot of what to expect, like, okay, well, these characters might be DLC. They doubled down and said, all right, any character that's been in the game is in this game.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder if they're almost certainly going to do DLC. So what did they save? Are they going to pull in more third-party franchises or?
No, they did add 2 new. So in the past Smash Brothers history, there's been 64 characters in these games, and that's not including the Echo, which they finally named them Echo characters, which are pretty much different characters with the same sort of skill sets. So they just echo them in. For example, the new Echo character Daisy.
Yeah.
So if you want to play Princess Peach, you can play Princess Peach, or you can play Daisy, which we haven't seen her in a game. except for the Mario franchise games, especially like Mario Party and so forth. But they brought her in. Now you can switch out, and she has the same skill sets, but a little bit different than Peach. And then you have two new characters, the Inklings from is it, what is that?
Oh,
I'm not. I don't have a Switch yet. But
Splatoon. Yeah.
And then you have Ridley, which was not expected. I think players have asked for Ridley for the longest time, but no one thought it was possible. He was way too big. They were able to kind of scale him down.
And he's hunched over too, so he fits into everything.
So hunched over, scaled down, and now he's a playable character. So now we have 66 characters, and the way they announced it is you're not going to get kind of all characters at once, even though all these characters that they mentioned are going to be in the game, and you won't have to do a DLC for these characters.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to you're going to have a way of unlocking each one of the characters to make it more enjoyable, so you don't have just all 66 to begin with. And then you're like, all right, what's next?
And they had mentioned that I guess initially the roster that you start with may just be like the original
8.
Yeah, from Nintendo 64. So
that's interesting. If you can just play and keep unlocking characters as we keep going on, I think that is a way to keep the game fun and keep people enthused.
I agree. It's a lot like some of the more recent Mortal Kombat games.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have everybody right off the bat up front, but I'm really looking forward to this. I love the franchise. I was one of the few people that invested in a Wii U for better or for worse. I still love the software, not necessarily the hardware, but there were some amazing games on that, and I still play Smash Brothers.
That's the only game I did play was Smash Brothers, and I got it just for Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I think it died out. It wasn't as big as Melee. I think Melee was the best one.
Yeah. Brawl
was a little bit lacking, but Melee had that story, which some people you either hate the story or love the story. The story was good for I think what it did.
I think so.
And it kept it entertaining.
And the Wii U did improve drastically on online play.
Yeah, it did.
Because the Wii version was nightmarish, kind of waiting for everything to load, and half the time it didn't work. But still, I'm a big fan of the franchise. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, and they put a date on that, right?
Yep, December 7th. So. Yeah. Remember I said there was one press conference that focused, or one company that said, you know what, we're going to focus on a certain timeline. They didn't let us down. Like, all right, this game, we know this is going to be a big game. We're putting this around Christmas. And I think marketing-wise, that is genius.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have the Pokemon game, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, coming out in September. Then you have Smash Brothers the Ultimate coming out in December, right for the holiday season. Soon as people open up their gifts on Hanukkah or Christmas, bam! I'm pretty sure that's going to be on a lot of kids' wish lists to have this game. It might be on a lot of adults' wish lists. My wife, if you're listening, it will be on my wish list. But I think that's strategically sound, and we got a little bit of idea now. The press conference for Nintendo was focused really on this game. We got a little bit of the other games, but it was mainly focused on this game. Like 15 minutes of just talking about the new characters and what's different, and how they enhance things, and how the gameplay is going to work. And then a lot more you hear from the Treehouse, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, I was disappointed in the past in almost every conference, but especially Nintendo's. Videos that they do, they almost always end it with but wait, there's one more.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it wasn't just Smash Brothers. I mean, it was great what we got with Smash Brothers, but then it immediately cut to the Treehouse where we could see gameplay. That was a little disappointing.
I was, and especially with the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee game, I thought I was going to get more out of the press conference.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because this is your game coming out in September. This is your big bet. And with these two games coming out, this is your 1-2 punch to end this quarter, this fiscal period,
right,
and be on top.
And I would think that Pokemon would sell better than even a Smash Brothers.
I think so too.
Just because there are a lot of people who go out there on day one and they buy both versions of the game. So it was strange not seeing a whole lot from that. And again, I talked about this in the previous video, but I'm a diehard Pokemon fan, and that did not do anything to enthuse me about. Getting this game.
Maybe it was the fact that they want more people to watch the Treehouse, because I had to stick around to watch the Treehouse to get information on Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. And I have a better understanding now. And it looks a little bit better. It doesn't look like it's a straight Pokemon Go game now.
Right.
It does follow it is pretty much a remake of Yellow. The gameplay is, the 3D graphics do help. You'll be able to see Pokemon manifest in the grass and so forth, and you can kind of pick and choose. They changed the catching system from what I see.
Yeah.
So the catching system now is more like Pokemon Go, where you feed it a berry or something and you catch it. No more battling. And I don't know if they got a letter from Peter or something saying stop making animals fight each other and then enslave it. But they was like, all right, we're going to befriend Pokemons now to catch them. The battling is still the same, though. When you're battling a trainer, it is still the same. And even the catching aspect, you do still gain experience. And that experience is split between your whole party. Yeah. So that part had me. It saved me a little bit. I'm still not a fan of the catching system, because there's some times where you just like when you're playing a Pokemon game, and you're like, yo, I need to level up for this fight.
Right.
And I spent hours in the grass just smashing other Pokemon.
The grinding that they seem to be removing from it. But so speaking as a crazy Pokemon fan, I think I'm going to skip it. I'll at least wait until after they either have a demo out or something. Either way, I'll probably still go out and buy a Switch this year, just because I want that new version of Smash Brothers. I want to go back and play Odyssey and Zelda and everything. One thing that I know we hadn't talked about yet, but I did think it was oddly missing, was I was expecting to at least get some sort of, not a full hardware refresh, but at least give me a Switch option where I can buy it out the gate with 100 gigs internal or something. Do I really need to go and buy a memory card just to make up for the fact that Nintendo's not including anything more? Or even, any option, whether it's a bigger battery option. I thought we'd see some sort of small
there was a
upgrade.
couple of things that were still missing from Nintendo Switch perspective, like even the online play. They didn't even get into online play.
Right.
And
that's coming up quick.
It's coming up quick. It's right around the corner, and it's going to be needed for these two big games that they're going to be launching. Is to have internet, or to have really an online presence. So the fact that they haven't come out with that is a little alarming too. Especially with the Smash, they said they're going to do 8 players. Smash, they're bringing that back. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not having 8 players in my house. This isn't back in middle school. We had LAN parties and we hooked up TVs.
Although I've still had, I have the occasional Smash party and Mario Kart party, but it's not something you have happen all the time.
No.
So I know we talked about a few things that we thought were kind of missing from it all. The hardware, I mentioned that in passing, but I was upset. I thought we'd at least get a teaser trailer for Metroid. We saw the logo last year, and we didn't get anything this year.
No, and I don't know if something happened and they're like holding off, but we didn't get. There's quite a few games that didn't really show up in this. So Metroid was one of them. There was one more thing about Pokemon. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. It does look like it's focused on bridging the gap between old generation players and new generation players.
Right.
The whole combo, the whole now adding a second player to it, and how that metric works is actually very interesting, because I have a 3-year-old daughter. And she's getting there where she's starting to learn how to use a controller and so forth. I would love to have my daughter sit with me and play Pokemon Go, and that's my excuse to get the game. And then she learns, and then she starts enjoying it. So that aspect of the game was very interesting when the way they explained it and so forth. So I do give them that. But back to what we were talking about, there was a couple games that. I was expecting Square Enix to come out with something with Avengers. I mean, we got a little 10-second clip last E3, and we were expecting something this year.
Yeah, at the very least, a proper teaser trailer, and not just what looked like the wrecked battlefield after something big went down.
Honestly, this is the time. We just had Infinity War come out. I think it just got to $2 billion. Like, this is the time to go ahead and bring out, like, hey, we're coming out with an Avengers game. Not this year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. If they're still working out some kinks or some licensing agreements.
Yeah.
That's fine, but like, show us something. Show us what you got in the works.
Yeah. Or maybe last year's little preview clip was too soon. Maybe they realized that that they don't. It's not ready for them to show off any gameplay, and maybe they are looking to push it more towards Avengers 4. We do have another one coming up next year. So I don't know.
And from the rumors that were going out, it's going to be like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. It's kind of going to be like a remake or a reboot of that, which honestly, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance was like one of the best Marvel games out there, and it was really because X-Men Legends was the game that really started it, and that whole combat system. So I would love to see that, but not that. And then what I talked about last time on the podcast, I was expecting to see Rocksteady Superman.
Yeah.
Like, they have not come out and said anything yet.
We can't tell that you're a fan, though, right?
Yeah. They haven't come out and said, this game is definitely in the works for nothing.
Right.
But this was the time to be like, hey, just FYI, we're working on it. But Rocksteady didn't even have a presence during this E3. I didn't see anything.
Unless they're sneaking something by with just something on like a clip on YouTube or a trailer going out there. But no, I was hoping for that too. I know we talked about in the previous game or the previous video and podcast that we did where, it could be complicated on how they would do the gameplay. But if there's anybody to pull it off, I would think it would be Rocksteady.
I have faith in them, and like what they did with Arkham was amazing, and I want to see them do it with Superman. I wouldn't even mind if they did. I don't care what character they did it with. They could do Wonder Woman and I'll be happy. They could do Flash and I'll be happy. But give me something.
Yeah.
Give me something.
So I know going back to things that I'm more of a fanboy with, I was really disappointed in one thing for me that was missing from the Xbox conference, and that was Fable. I had held out hope that they've been teasing and talking about how they were going to be bringing back the Fable franchise. Microsoft has been criticized for not having a whole lot of first-party games. They canceled the kind of weird multiplayer Fable game that they had talked about for a year or two at the beginning of the Xbox One life cycle. And this was especially the first one. I mean, they all have a special place for me, but I love the Fable franchise. My wife and I play that together, and she just recently went back and replayed the games, and it's so much fun. There's a quirky, weird British humor to it. It's a unique art style. It just seems like it would be an obvious thing, even if they were going to tease it, but we got nothing. So maybe that's one they're holding out for, the next console cycle. If that's really going to be 2 years out or something, then I guess they didn't bother showing it. But that was disappointing. And hopefully they learn from the past, because if you played the 3 Fable games, the first one was pretty much flawless for what it was. The second one was kind of a weird one-hit kill final boss that didn't feel right, and then so there were a lot of flaws with the second and third game, but they still felt like Fable games. So I'm hoping they're able to pluck from those 3 games what made it special and work out something that we can really look forward to as fans.
Yep. But you know what? Tell us what y'all think. What was your highlights for E3? Is there anything that y'all really enjoyed? You can throw down right in the comments down below. Write your own philosophies. Until then, until next time, guys. We'll see y'all later. Have a great day. Geek Philosophy, the geek way of thinking. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for stopping by Geek Philosophy. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, put your philosophies in the comments, and also hit that subscribe button so you can be notified of all future videos. Thanks for stopping by. Geek Philosophy, the geek way of thinking.